I came across a property on Furnished Finder that looked like it had great photos, it had a great design, and I noticed the price was just really undervalued. It was about 3,500 per month is what it was listed at. And what I did was I approached the owner, I kind of educated him a little bit about what the market rates are. And he was actually very grateful that I called. I was able to rent out the client's property for about 6 to 7 thousand per month consistently.
Most landlords blame the market when their rental is underperforming. A great property manager knows where to actually look. Today's guest is David Kamenetsky, founder of DOMA Luxe Properties, a fully furnished property management company. David manages over 50 monthly rentals across Northern California. He works with landlords at every stage from setting up their first midterm rental the right way to turning around properties that have not been hitting their potential. So excited to just hear more of David's story today and for you guys to have a key takeaway to apply to your rentals. David, you didn't just start with a portfolio handed to you. Give the listeners a picture of what that journey looked like and how you figured out, there was a real opportunity in the monthly midterm rental space.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks so much for having me and appreciate the intro, Kelly. Furnish Finder has been a big part of my journey from the start. And my background comes from being a real estate investor as well as being a realtor. So I got started with midterm rentals about 3.5 years ago, where I had my first long-term arbitrage unit, and I was able to kind of prove the concept with that first unit. I had some extra furniture from a flip that I had done, so it was pretty easy to get it furnished, get it going. And my first guests were travel nurses that I was able to source from Furnish Finder. And after I was able to really prove the concept with that first unit, I was kind of all in. And that's when I started co-hosting for other property owners and began building my own portfolio.
Nice. And how does your experience as a realtor and house flipper shape the way you look at properties and work with owners and their stories?
Yeah, definitely. The flipping experience I think came in handy when doing, light remodel or refinishes on a house to make sure that we're really modernizing it as much as possible and keeping our budget, in mind too, especially if it's an investor that's just starting out. And in terms of the realtor background, I think that reaching out consistently and getting told no, having that repetition of rejection was really useful for me to be able to continue to move on, continue to persevere. And that's how I was able to, find clients to manage their properties when maybe early on I didn't necessarily have the experience or connections, but just being able to kind of be consistent with that outreach, I think really helped me be successful. And that realtor background really allowed me to kind of put those repetitions in over the years and prepared me to do well in this space.
I love that. All right, David, this is my favorite question. Everybody knows it. Walk us through your portfolio now. What do you have in your personal portfolio? What does your management portfolio look like? Give us kind of an all-in picture about what do these properties look like?
Yeah, definitely. So the 50 properties that are part of our core inventory or our portfolio, that consists of about three properties that are my own midterm rentals. And then we have about eight or so properties that are just long-term arbitrage, and the rest all fall under our property management company. So it started out just co-hosting for owners, but being a realtor in California, I was able to become an official property management company. Um, and majority of the units, about 40 or so, are ones that we manage for other property owners here in the San Francisco Bay Area, as well as the Central Valley in California.
And what have you found are like those property types that are just your best performers in the monthly midterm rental space in your portfolio?
Yeah, our all-star property, I would say, is like a four-bedroom home. We really like four-bedroom homes that are either single level or they may have a bedroom and full bathroom on the main level. So that allows people with maybe elderly parents or people that are older and just can't do stairs very well, gives them a little bit more flexibility. And that four-bedroom is kind of a sweet spot for us, we've noticed, because we're able to kind of cater to those larger families, but also maybe ones that may not need so much space, but they might be coming from a larger home. So we're kind of able to cater to both, larger and smaller types of groups and appeal to a larger renter pool.
Yeah, that's interesting because those larger properties and four bedrooms can be seen as a larger property in terms of a monthly rental can sometimes intimidate people or landlords and investors because they carry a larger overhead. And they can feel a little bit riskier. So it's really great to hear that you found success. I think it's also of note that you called out that a first floor bedroom and bathroom or like a ranch style home that's all on one floor. We had a larger midterm rental in our portfolio as an arbitrage for a few years, and we got that request quite often. And it was something that I hadn't necessarily realized how many families are relocating or displaced and have a family member whose stairs are not an easy thing for. It's one of those things you don't really think about until you need it. So that's a great call out. And actually, in that one arbitrage we had, we ended up turning the main floor office into a bedroom so that we could accommodate that request. Even though it didn't have a closet, it did help just to
Right.
see that. So yeah, I think that's fantastic, especially that you found that sweet spot in your market. So let's talk about how you find that opportunity. When you're evaluating a property, whether it's your own or whether it's one that you're looking to manage for a property owner, what are you looking for in terms of knowing it'll be successful as a monthly rental? How do you know where that demand exists? And how do you confidently say to a property owner or an investor, like, I feel good about your property as a monthly rental?
Definitely. Yeah, that's a great question. I think evaluating the property to kind of just looking at the bare bones of it, not necessarily the finished product, and really being able to see past it to see what potential it could have. So I always like to see like the finishes of the property, what kind of condition are the bathrooms and the kitchen in? Can maybe like a paint job on the cabinets kind of freshen up the space? Is there anything that could be done on that aspect? And then the biggest thing would be the furnishing and having a cohesive furnishing design. That's the biggest thing that we require our clients to invest in before we kind of take them on to work with them. There has to be, some kind of differentiator with it being a growing competitive space. There's so many furnished options out there. You really want to be able to stand out to people, and to be able to get those higher occupancy rates, you really want to stand out with the design and not just kind of put the most inexpensive furniture in the property. You really want to make sure it's comfortable for longer stays, it's cohesive, and sometimes we've had even great success if the property is not maybe the most remodeled or updated, but just having like that modern cohesive furniture throughout really makes a huge difference and really changes the whole feel of the property. So those are a couple things that we kind of look for when we're looking to manage properties, and redoing that design and getting some professional photography for the space as well really sets the property up for success more so than a property that might not be pictured in the best way. It might be nice in person, but if it doesn't look that way online, people aren't going to be as likely to book it.
Yeah, that's really interesting because you are not worried about if there's enough demand, right? And we see these stats at Furnished Finder. There's more than 30,000 travelers searching every single day. But you are focused on how do you stand out and how do you create the best place to stay? How do you stand out from other homes? How do you make your listing shine? How do you use those photos, that design? That's a really good perspective that I feel like probably not enough landlords take, and they're focused more on, is there enough demand? Is there enough people coming? Is there enough people in need of that monthly rentals? And what I'm sensing from you, and you tell me if I'm right or not, but is like you have the confidence that the demand is there. You just want to make sure that you stand out and you're the first choice.
Definitely. Yeah, and a lot of times because we have multiple listings in a specific market, we have, leads reaching out to us, and they've said that they've seen a couple of our homes. They already see our level of design and quality, and they're just already interested in working with us. So if maybe one home ends up not being available for their dates, we can offer them something else that might be a good match. So we have a lot of success leveraging kind of, all of our listings to be able to fill the demand. And we try to be a little bit conservative when we're analyzing a market too. we kind of look at what are the furnished options out there, how many are available to, and we try to be realistic with our clients on what we think the occupancy rates can be. So in our specific market, in the San Francisco Bay Area, we're seeing about 80 to 90% occupancy rates, so pretty high rates due to high demand with a lot of AI companies and a lot of people going back into work beyond, insurance housing. And then in the Central Valley, I would say our average would be kind of in like the 70 to 80% range. So we do see a little bit more vacancy there just because it's not as a largely densely populated area.
Yeah, but with those larger homes, you have that larger profit margin as well. So it's like you might see that 70-80% occupancy where maybe a studio to a two-bedroom might see more of that, 90% occupancy, but the margins aren't as great. So I love that you've really discovered what your niche is that you go after in the monthly midterm rental space. A quick couple reminders before I'm really excited to jump into an example of how it wasn't the market. You helped someone that was struggling with their property performance and turn that around for them. But first, just some of those things to keep in mind if you're newer to the space and demand is something that you're concerned about. Go to the Furnished Finder Market Insights page. It's a fantastic snapshot of who's coming to your market and what is the rental price ranges in that market for per bedroom size. We've seen on Furnished Finder that demand for 28 plus day stays has grown 138% from 2019 to 2025. So it is definitely, and around 19% of the overall rental market is this monthly midterm rental space. So definitely worth pursuing and considering if you're coming from the long-term or short-term rental strategies. And David, let's jump in. What was one of those situations where there was a property owner that was struggling and you noticed? Did you come to them first? Did they come to you first? And how did you really help them turn that property around?
Yeah, definitely. That's a great question. It was actually my first client that I ever started managing their property for, that I actually was able to locate on Furnish Finder. And this is a market that's a few hours away from where I'm located in the Central Valley, in the Fresno Clovis area, where the property values are much more affordable than the San Francisco Bay Area, which is, one of the most expensive markets, in the nation. So going over there was a bit more affordable, seemed a little bit more attainable for me. And I knew that the monthly furnished rental rates were around between like 5 to 7,000 per month for a 3 to 4 bedroom home. And I came across a property on Furnish Finder that looked like it had great photos, it had a great design, and I noticed the price was just really undervalued. It was about 3,500 per month is what it was listed at. And what I did was I approached the owner. I kind of educated him a little bit about what the market rates are. And he was actually very grateful that I called because he was looking to offload the property, to have somebody manage it. He was a pretty busy medical professional himself, so he knew the demand for medical professionals, but he didn't really know kind of beyond that the whole insurance housing world and different types of sectors like construction housing that may also need single family homes. So that was kind of a great initial experience for me. I was able to rent out the client's property for about 6 to 7,000 per month consistently. And he was extremely happy. He didn't have to worry about the day-to-day operations with his hectic work schedule. He was able to have peace of mind that everything is handled, and he was able to cash flow more at the end of the day. So we're really able to maximize the revenue and save the client time, and that's kind of the ideal situation. So a lot of times it may be the design or the marketing, but in this case it was just maybe the lack of time to be able to respond to leads in a timely manner and having kind of the connections in place to getting those larger paying bookings.
So when you approached him and said, "Hey, I want you to take your rental rate from 3,500 and basically double it," how did he respond to that? Was it easy for him to see that opportunity, or was he shocked? Like, what was the scenario? Looking for a simple professional way to manage your monthly rental? Furnish Finder's Landlord Tools brings everything together: tenant screening, lease templates, and online rent payments, all in one place. Stay organized, save time, and stay in control. For more information, Explore landlord tools today.
I think he was a little bit hesitant at first, but I was able to prove myself pretty quickly, and we were able to get the property rented within 3 to 4 weeks at a higher rate. So I think at that point he was fully trusting of me, and he was understanding that there's more to just traveling medical professionals, but there's so many other groups that need housing, and he really was able to trust me after that point, I would say.
You know, what's really unique about midterm rentals, and I think so many landlords have yet to realize, is what you just said, is that it's more than just traveling medical professionals. And it's great because you can manage your property on your own if you want. It's completely doable, but you don't have to, right? Like it's short-term rentals, it's difficult to handle your own property even if you just have one property. It's a lot of involvement. If you have someone staying at your house for 2 or 3 days and they have a question, they expect it answered before they send it, right? Like it's a lot of attention, it's constant turnovers. Long-term rentals, a lot of people have that property manager, but you can really be pretty hands off. I mean, we had a long-term rental for years, and I would go months and months and months without hearing from our tenants. Midterm rentals are that space where you can do either, right? But people are out there like David, if you want that help and that support to operate your midterm rental and make sure that you're getting the maximum out of it, right? And that just have been doing it for a while. So it's great just that you have that optionality. So David, I want to talk to you because you've seen so many properties, you've managed so many properties, and you have a great eye as far as not only seeing and kind of anticipating if a property will be successful or not, but how you can kind of pull a struggling property into success again. So, whether a property is struggling or it's brand new, you're essentially running the same diagnostic. Walk us through the first few things you look at when you're looking at a monthly rental and you see if it's performing the way it should be. What are the first few things you look at?
Yeah, yeah. So beyond just what I kind of mentioned before with the design and the photography, going past that, I would say looking at what it's priced at as well. You want to make sure that the property is priced competitively compared to other market, comparables. You want to make sure that you are providing a fair market value, and it's a fair value for what's out there. A lot of times, people have a misconception that with insurance housing that kind of whatever rate may be approved, people go higher for different rates depending on who may be inquiring, depending on what company is inquiring. But having a well-rounded fair price that's transparent, all the way around is the best way to go. And just being competitive and fair with your pricing, I think, can solve a lot of people's issues that may be struggling with high levels of vacancy.
Katie, I'd love to hear your perspective on this because it's true. Whether it's struggling landlord or someone new to the space, it's very much the same. And your properties are a different size than David's properties, and mine are kind of in between both of yours. So, what would you say from your perspective? Someone coming in with that studio to one bedroom space, for the most part, what do they tend to get wrong, or that needs those first three things you want to set up when you're getting started in the midterm rental space?
Yeah, good point. Because a lot of it carries over to those smaller property sizes. But I would
Hmm.
say when you have that smaller property, how you present it matters even more, arguably, right? Because my properties don't have a fenced yard that I can brag about or a big space that if a family is looking like, the inventory might be a little bit more limited. There's more properties that are of a smaller size. So I feel like my photography, my furnishings, my descriptions on my listing are really, really important so I can stand out from the start. And that I love what you said, David, about the transparent pricing. Right. Like the number one way to lose a tenant in my book is like you have your price and listing as something, and then you're like, oh, but there's this fee, and this fee, right? Just put it all out there on your listing and make it clear so that there's no surprises. Nobody likes surprises. It's the worst. So unless it's a birthday party, don't have any of these surprises. So I think it's just having that quality and being intentional with what you're doing, right? Like thinking about your pricing. And I like what you're saying, David, about like thinking about who is staying there and what their budget might be and how do you compare to others in the market. And then I think also it's how you operate your business, right? Like how fast are you responding to leads? Are you doing a tenant screening? Are you doing a digital lease? Like your best practices, they come in clutch here.
I would love to have a little bit more of this conversation based off, both of your stories from different perspectives as landlords. Because while we're talking about it, when it comes to Furnish Finder and the size of properties on Furnish Finder, 75% of properties have two bedrooms or less. So David's going after, and I think he has a variety in his portfolio, but his niche, his specialty is those four-bedroom properties, ranch style. That's about 7% of inventory on Furnish Finder. So the supply is lower, but that balance plays out a lot of times. So for both of you, I'd love to hear, what do y'all see that landlords get wrong before they even get started in the monthly midterm rental space?
Yeah, you did touch on a good point with the timeliness to respond to leads. I think you can lose a lot of great people that are ready to book right away. Often these kind of midterm travelers are booking last minute. Looking at the statistics, there's very high numbers that are booking within the last couple weeks before the start date. So having that quick responsiveness is really crucial to making sure that you can book those leads successfully, and also having flexibility in your pricing too, kind of going off of what we were talking about with the transparency of all the fees and pricing, and just kind of talking to the lead, getting to know their situation and their needs, and having that flexibility with the pricing too, to just be able to help the family. I think it goes a long way, and it's important in this industry for sure.
Yeah, I think a lot of landlords expect it to be transactional. And like David's saying, it's relationship, right? It's a relational thing. You want to get to know these tenants, what their needs are. Whether it's a four-bedroom or a studio, you might need to change something before they come in, right? Or you just it's not about a quick, is your property available? Great. It's booked. You've got the funds in your account. Like, and that's intentional because these people are there for a while and it needs to be something that can work. Like, you would never rent a long-term rental, a 12-month rental, just send a message on Zillow and have it be done, right? Like, and that's on purpose. So I think the biggest thing is people expect it to just happen instantly. And I love what you're saying, David, about like having some flexibility and working with tenants and making sure that your property is a fit for them, because there's plenty of demand. If your property is not a fit for them, there will be someone else who it works for. But you've got to be in the conversation.
What does getting someone set up the right way actually look like? And is there any like pitfalls to avoid?
I would say for landlords to kind of set themselves up for success is kind of evaluating your listing first and seeing what improvements can be made. What would you look for to be most comfortable in this longer stay? And what are the types of people that are looking to book your place? Is it a larger home that might be more for construction crews, larger crews, so that privacy and separation of space and blackout curtains might be important. So kind of looking and seeing what are the most important amenities that are attractive to that renter pool, and being able to highlight that in your listing, or reinvest and improve your listing. That would be the kind of the first step for me. And then taking a look at the pricing and making sure that you're competitive with the market rates, and that you're not too high, or you're not too low, but you're kind of right in par with what the market seems to be willing to pay. So that would be kind of my rough overview and analysis of a listing.
One thing I'm going to add that we haven't really touched on yet is the different bedroom sizes. Is Furnish Finder has over 60,000 room rentals as well. So if you're listening, you're like, hey, this is intriguing. I'd like to get started in the space. You can even just advertise a room in your house that isn't getting, that value. Maybe it's currently used for storage, or you're, a kid that comes home like twice a year or something like that. You can make it into rental income that is working for you and still have it available when you know your family is coming home as well.
Okay, great point, Kelly. And I totally agree. It does not have to be a huge endeavor to get started and at least test the water and see if it's something you like. All right, David. Well, we have talked so much about these practical tips that people can take and put into action, looking at your pricing, making sure your photos are good, responding, all of these truly fundamentals that can make or break you in the midterm rental space. But I want to talk about your mindset. You work with a lot of landlords and property owners, and you have a lot of properties that you are managing, a lot of tenants, a lot of leads. How do you stay organized? How do you stay motivated? How do you stay optimistic? And what kinds of opportunities do you see within this midterm rental space that keep you excited?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think for me, midterm rentals in general are something that I'm very passionate about, and just being able to help families during such traumatic and stressful times is very rewarding. And also being able to help landlords, supplement their income, help their retirement, it really means a lot for them, and really you can see that the positive impacts that it has. So I feel very grateful that I have the opportunity to be in a space that is so gratifying, to being able to just be able to kind of stop and explain to families kind of the whole process, and educate them on kind of the next steps. It really goes a long way, and they're usually so grateful for us taking the time and patience to educating them. So for me, it's just always really rewarding when a family is placed, and they're just so thankful for us for being able to place them so quickly. They're often just going through such a hard time. So I feel lucky to be able to be in a position where we're able to at least help make one part of the process a little bit less stressful. And for me, the mindset is always to continue to be able to help more families in need. We've been able to implement like a donation program recently where we donate $100 to different charitable organizations each month. So we donate $100 for every family that we place, and we also do place families nationwide, not just in our local market. So we're able to kind of go beyond the reach of the current inventory that we manage, and kind of help at a larger scale as well. So it's been really motivating to be able to grow from just our local market here in California to being able to help families nationwide, and it's just very inspiring to continue to keep growing and being able to keep refining our processes so that we can keep working at a quicker pace and being able to provide the best possible experience for our clients.
Well, if you're listening, you have one actionable step that you're like, I love what David said about this. I want to start implementing that into my strategy. Put it in the comments. We'd love to interact with you on YouTube. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please don't forget to leave us a 5-star review if you're loving our show. We like to wrap up, David, with a fun rapid fire question where whatever comes to mind, just a quick answer. Furnish Finder's been a consistent part of your midterm rental journey. What's one thing that you love most about Furnish Finder?
Yeah, being able to connect with landlords that have quality properties that are ready to go and that are available has been a huge asset to our business, to being able to kind of expand our reach and help place families at a larger scale. So connecting with quality landlords that have great properties has been the biggest asset to our business.
All right, next one's up. What is your dream property type to manage? One that you would take the blink of an eye without even knowing any details.
I would say like a beach property would be amazing to have. We don't have anything that's like along the water. We have some on like a private lake, but nothing like along the coast. So I think anything along the coast, I would take it in a heartbeat.
I love that. That's a good point. Is when we buy these midterm rentals, we're often like, yes, we've got a awesome place we could go visit in between stays, but that hasn't really happened for me. So it's like this beach property would be amazing, but when you have 90% occupancy or greater, in my case, you don't really have much time between those turnovers. So that's a good problem to have in the midterm rental space. Let's see. What's the one amenity tenants always ask for that landlords underestimate?
Walk-in shower. For sure. Always, always a walk-in shower. It's like you said, Katie, before, it's not something that you think about that people
Yeah.
would request so often, but the walk-in shower for older folks is just so much more convenient, and it's much more commonly requested than you would imagine. So I think having one on the main level is ideal if possible, but at least having one in the house at a minimum.
Once you walk through the eyes of someone who needs a little bit of accommodation, you realize how difficult typical properties can be. So even if you don't have a fully accessible home, but you just have some things here and there that make it easier, that's a huge plus.
Yeah, goes a long way for a lot of folks, for sure.
Yep. All right. What is one change to a property that makes the biggest difference but costs the least amount of money?
I would say I have a couple things. Maybe the furnishings would be one because it's usually less expensive than doing improvements to the home. And then probably the one of the most cost-effective improvements that I feel makes the biggest impact, what I mentioned earlier, was repainting kitchen cabinets, I would say. Especially if they're like the older dated ones, just a fresh coat of paint on some cabinets really goes a long way and could really change the whole feel of a kitchen or a bathroom.
I want to add in here photos. I know it's not, a furnishing, but that change to your listing, professional photos, game changer.
That's always like a requirement for us. The professional photos is like it's a non-negotiable for sure because people are often booking without seeing the property in person. So that's all they're really getting from their perspective. So having those clear photos is really key. We also like to do a video walkthrough of all of our homes too. So if the property is booked, and the family doesn't want to be disturbed and they really need to see it before with insurance housing, it's pretty common that they do need to walk the property first. So that's always really huge to be able to give them that kind of feeling of the layout and really get acquainted with the whole place.
And a go-to tool for that video tour?
We have our professional photographer do like a walkthrough
Okay.
reel at the same time. It's pretty efficient for us. And then we have
Yep.
like a professional version that's edited and ready to go. It's kind of like the quicker social media style reel, but a lot of people do like the Matterport 3D walkthrough too. So if the budget allows doing like the actual 3D walkthrough where you can click through the entire home is great to do, but not necessarily a requirement if you're on a budget.
That can even be simple. Like we have our cleaner just do a video walkthrough after a good clean, and it's nothing fancy, right? But I'm like, next time we can get a professional photographer in there that can do the walkthrough on a video, great. But until then, don't have nothing. Have something, even if it's just a video you take on your iPhone. Just have
Yeah.
something.
All right, last one. What's one thing that landlords are most resistant to change, even when it's clearly holding them back?
I would say furniture is actually probably the one that's the most underestimated. And we have a lot of landlords that, they don't see maybe the return on their investment right away, because it can be a bit costly, but it could also be kind of something you do gradually over time and in phases, maybe like room by room or just focusing on a few larger pieces at first. I think that can go a really long way and can help increase, you know, occupancy rates as well as the rental rates that landlords are able to achieve. And I think a lot of landlords have a hard time seeing that value right up front until they kind of see it in action and they see the proof of concept.
Well, David. We've really enjoyed having you. Thanks for all the insights and expertise on, how to take a struggling property to a successful property or just get started in the midterm rental space. So reminder, there are no booking fees on Furnished Finder compared to short-term rental platforms. So all you have to do to get started is one low annual price to add your listing. And if you have multiple listings, we have a fantastic team that can point you in the right direction. We even have a listing setup service. If you decide, I don't even know where to start marketing my property, our listing setup team can help with that. So, David, if anyone wants to connect with you, we'll, of course, have your listings in the show notes. But is there any other way you'd like them to connect?
Yeah, people can reach out on our website, domaluxeproperties.com, or they could send us a message on Instagram too, where we showcase a lot of our properties if people want to take a look at our inventory.
Well, thanks for being here. Stay tuned, and we'll catch y'all again next time. Have a great week, everybody. Bye.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having me.
Thanks,
Take
David.
care.
Thanks for joining us on this episode. If you're enjoying the Landlord Diaries, be sure to like, subscribe, and share it with others. With over 300,000 listings across the country, Furnished Finder makes it easy for landlords and tenants to connect directly. No middleman, no markups. Ready to list your property? Head to furnishedfinder.com to be a part of the movement that's redefining rentals one connection at a time.